They say that when the bombs fall in Gaza, the sound is pretty deafening. But what's even louder is the silence that follows. The silence of the world, the silence of Arab leaders, the silence of Washington, D.C., and to an extent the silence of the rest of us who watch all of this unfold through our screens, wondering how much of our humanity we've had to trade in the process. So today let's break that silence. My name is Jake Blackstone Morphonios, and this is the truth that you're not going to hear on CNN or MSNBC, certainly not on Fox News. Why? It's because they are too busy taking notes from the Pentagon, while you've got little boys in Rafah bleeding out beside spilled soup and bread that they're never going to get to eat. Let's go back just about 72 hours. In southern Gaza, this is a place that's already been turned into rubble by Israeli airstrikes long ago. Just in the last 72 hours, over 102 Palestinians, most of them civilians, were gunned down in the shadow of a U.S.-backed so-called humanitarian aid zone. And this latest bloodbath came just 2 days ago, June 3rd. Israeli forces opened fire near Rafah. They killed 27 people. They injured 160 more people with live gunfire, shrapnel. And what was the crime of these people that were getting shot at? These guys had the audacity to stand in line and wait for food. Let that sink in a second. According to The Guardian, the Israeli army claimed that these people had deviated from designated corridors. But the eyewitnesses, people who saw exactly what happened, told Al Jazeera, they told AP News, there was no deviation. Only people standing there in desperation. The line for aid stretched around corners. There were mothers clutching children. There were old people too frail to run when the shooting started. These people were not getting shot because of crossfire between Hamas militants shooting at Israel back and forth. There was no fighting. This wasn't an accident. This was cold-blooded murder. Even the United Nations, an institution that couches its criticism of Israel in the softest terms because they know the pushback they're going to get, even they condemn these attacks this week as potential war crimes. Of course, Israel says, we're going to investigate it. We'll investigate ourselves. Kind of like the same way you ask an arsonist what happened, and he promises to investigate how the fire started. Like you can really rely on the perpetrator to investigate themselves. And let's not pretend that this so-called aid operation is anything but a public relations mask over a slow-motion extermination of Palestinians. That's what it is. This ironically named Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, nice name, they don't actually do humanitarian work. This group is backed by both Israel and the United States. They have temporarily closed their distribution sites because Israel keeps turning them into killing zones. The Financial Times reported this week that civilians are being lured in by promises of food only to be shot in broad daylight when they show up. So this humanitarian aid that Israel keeps going on, Piers Morgan and other shows and their ambassadors talking about how they're providing humanitarian aid, this is not about food. This is humanitarian aid being used as a weapon to commit even more atrocities. And meanwhile, you've got the U.S. State Department out there smiling for the cameras, telling them that this humanitarian plan is working. But you have to ask, working for whom? Certainly not for the starving families that are trapped behind fences, who are getting shot by Israeli drones. Not working for the children who now know what a sniper round sounds like before they've even learned how to write their name. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, over 54,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 2023. That's not a typo. 54,000. In addition to that, over 123,000 people have been confirmed to have been injured in some way or another from these attacks by Israel. 123,000, that's more than the population of many American towns. That's several times over the population of my town. This past week alone saw another 100 deaths, mostly civilians, and almost all of these deaths connected to these aid zones. And that's been confirmed by UNRWA, by Al Jazeera. So think about this. More Palestinians have died in the last 8 months than American troops died during the entire Vietnam War. Where the hell is the global outrage? Why aren't there sanctions? Why hasn't the United Nations activated peacekeepers? Why is it that the people who get demonized are not the Israeli snipers, not the Israeli politicians sending out those snipers? Why is it that the people who get criticized are people like commencement speakers at graduation ceremonies who use their speeches to call attention to this genocide? Why are they the evil ones who need to be deported? Why isn't it the filthy U.S. puppet politicians who have been bought off by the Israeli lobby who are not the ones being deported? I'll tell you why. It's because the people who are dying, they don't matter to the empire. Israeli officials, with the coldness of military bureaucrats, said that the people who were shot near these aid sites were threats. Threats to who? Threats to the barrels of the IDF rifles? Al Jazeera quoted IDF spokesman defending every single bullet. The coverage this week has been sickening. AP News confirmed the official line that those people who were gunned down were, quote, compromising safety. The people who got shot were the ones compromising safety. So this is the psychology of the Israeli occupation. Twist the truth until the victims become the threats. The executioners are the ones who become the victims. Nobody plays the victim card quite like Israel. It's the same playbook that Israeli intelligence firms use when they justify using their spyware that they sell to authoritarian regimes to surveil and oppress their populations. Which, by the way, in the news this week, more talk about the FBI working with Israel to surveil Americans. This is the same playbook that the Mossad has used for decades. You manufacture a threat, then you execute the response. And the war machine keeps rolling. The press keeps nodding. Right? Oh, yeah, well, there was all that bad stuff that happened during World War II, so I guess we gotta let Israel commit genocide. And it's not just in Rafah. Airstrikes are continuing to hammer other refugee camps, like the Jabalia refugee camp, where 14 people, including women and children, were vaporized in an instant. And then over in the West Bank, where I spent some time, a 14-year-old boy was shot dead by Israeli troops. 14-year-old boy. I've got a 14-year-old son. He's no threat to anyone. This 14-year-old Palestinian boy wasn't carrying a gun, wasn't doing anything to justify being shot dead. There was no trial to determine if he was a terrorist. There was no warning. They just shot him. So this is more than war. I'm kind of sick of U.S. media referring to the war between Israel and the Palestinians. This is not a war. This is a systematic campaign to erase an entire people, to grind them down until the only thing left of them is dust and memory. And while Gaza burns, here's the U.S. State Department holding press briefings, and they're muttering these vague concerns about what Israel's doing, but they don't really come out and condemn Israel. And they certainly don't stop the shipments of money and arms from flowing to Israel. They're not doing anything to correct this aid distribution model that kills civilians. All of this is continuing with Washington's full blessing. Thought it was bad under the Biden administration? It was. Certainly is no better now. And the hypocrisy is stunning. The very people who lecture the rest of the world about democracy, we're the only democracy in the Middle East. Not only is Israel not a democracy, but Is the United States a democracy? We are funding one of the most brutal occupations of our time. The majority of the American people are against what is happening over there. Is it really a democracy when the people have no say? When a foreign government and the powerful billionaires associated with that state are able to buy our representatives off and stop them from listening to the will of the people, the voice of the people who elected them? Is that a democracy? Are we even a republic anymore? Ask yourself, why is it that both parties in Congress stand with Israel no matter what crimes are committed? The answer, my friends, is spelled AIPAC. It's spelled lobby money. It's spelled intel leverage. Where Israeli firms collect dirt, they build databases bigger than the NSA. And it's not like the Arab world is helping. Saudi Arabia is silent. Egypt is silent. Jordan is silent. Why? Because the taps have been opened. U.S. taxpayers are losing money like water gushing out of us, flowing into these Arab nations, buying them off, keeping them silent. It's not that they don't care. It's not that the people in Saudi Arabia or Egypt or Jordan don't care. They certainly care. They care deeply about the Palestinians. But their governments, their leaders, they've been bought. Their leaders are more afraid of upsetting Washington and losing that flow of money than they're worried about what their own people think as they watch Gaza disappear. They continue to sign normalization deals with Israel while Gaza is being choked to death. So this isn't just abandonment by the Arab world. This is utter betrayal. So, as usual, Israel always says, well, we can't stop until Hamas is eradicated. Look, this isn't about Hamas. This isn't about tunnels or the little rockets that they have popped off in the past. That's just the cover story. What this is about is not self-defense for Israel. This is about acquisition of territory. It's about erasing history. It's about expanding settlements, eliminating this demographic problem. You've got this tiny geographic space where you have more native Palestinians living there than you have primarily European-derived Israelis. This area is what the extremists in Israel, which is quite a few of them, this is what they call the Arab womb. It's a eugenics campaign dressed in national security language. What they're doing. Oh yeah, we're just protecting ourselves. Yeah, there was another fascist regime that I can think of that talked about how they were just protecting themselves too. So I'm telling you stuff that you're not going to hear too many places. That's because the mainstream media is too busy quoting Netanyahu, parroting IDF press releases. But here at Blackstone Intelligence, I will name names. I will follow the money. Fortunately, more and more countries are waking up. Not everyone is fooled. To be honest, I don't think anyone has ever been fooled. I think they've all known. They've just parroted the propaganda to justify their inaction. But anyway, Spain has announced plans to cancel a missile deal with Israel and reduce their military cooperation. So that's good. Even Matthew Miller, former U.S. State Department spokesman, he admitted on record this week that Israel has, quote, without a doubt, committed war crimes in Gaza. Of course they have. You won't hear that from any sitting members of the State Department, though. And even inside Israel, some protests are growing because the public is tired of being dragged through the mud by this extremist far-right government, the most far-right government in the history of Israel. The people are tired of that government. They're tired of these bloodthirsty policies. At least some people are. Not enough to make a difference. Kind of like over here in the United States, not enough of us who object to have the strength to counter the power of the people that fund and maintain Israel. But a storm is coming. Tel Aviv knows it. So, before I close, I want you to picture something. I want this to be how we end this today. I want you to picture a mother in Gaza sitting beside her child. Child's alive, at least for now. But here they've been sitting, waiting 5 hours to get a measly amount of food. She's cradling the little boy's head. His leg is gone. That was lost, shredded in a drone strike months ago. So here she is. The gunfire is popping off. They're starving. She whispers to him that he'll be okay. Because she's a mother. She has to tell him that. But she knows she's lying. She's got no bandages. She has no access to clean water, no electricity, no hope. I want you to think for a second. That mother, had you just been born in other circumstances, she could have been your mother. That child might have been you, might have been your own child. I want you to think of it in these terms because injustice anywhere is a blueprint for how your own government is going to treat you the moment you stop being useful. You think it can't happen here? They are testing the limits of cruelty in Gaza. They're seeing what they can get away with. What can the power of government get away with to suppress a population? I'm telling you, one day the lessons learned in Israel are going to be implemented here at home in the United States of America. So does this matter to you? You're damned right it does. Now, if your heart is still beating after hearing this, it's your duty to speak. Share this report, expose the lies, demand justice, because the world isn't just watching Gaza. The people of Gaza are watching the world. The only question is, what are you going to do about it? I ask for your support for Blackstone Intelligence as we get rolling again. And you can go to patreon.com/Blackstone Intel. I'll be posting the transcript of this and future reports there, as well as providing patron-only content, videos, and so forth. So I would love your support there. You can also go to Buy Me a Coffee, Blackstone Intel. Send me a little tip if you'd like. I'm Jake Blackstone of Blackstone Intelligence Network, calling on you to take a stand for what is right.